The Galactic Council's emergency session had been called to address what High Chancellor Thexmori considered a minor irritation. The newly discovered human species had been making territorial claims in the Outer Rim, establishing colonies without proper authorization and generally ignoring the established protocols that governed civilized expansion. The matter is simple, Chancellor Thexmori announced to the assembled representatives from 47 species. His crystalline form pulsed with confident authority as he gestured toward the holographic display. These humans possess perhaps 20 primitive vessels. A single patrol squadron should suffice to remind them of their place in the galactic order. Admiral Vex Kaler of the Hegemony Navy nodded his massive reptilian head. My forces have already been dispatched to their primary colony at Wolf 359. A show of force, demand for compliance, standard first contact protocol for unguided species. The council chamber buzzed with satisfied murmurs. They'd handled dozens of similar situations over the centuries. Young species always tested boundaries until they encountered the overwhelming might of established galactic civilization. A few destroyed ships, some orbital bombardment of military targets, and the newcomers invariably fell in line. Estimated time to compliance? Asked Ambassador HFY. Her serpentine form coiled elegantly around her hover throne. 2 standard rotations at most, Admiral Vex Kaler replied confidently. The humans appear to have developed faster than light travel, but their technology reads as remarkably primitive. Basic fusion drives, simple kinetic weapons, minimal defensive capabilities. High Chancellor Thexmori was about to call for adjournment when his aide's panicked mental projection cut through the chamber's collective consciousness. Chancellor, urgent communication from Admiral Vex Kaler's fleet. Put it through, Thexmori commanded, expecting to hear confirmation of humanity's swift capitulation. Instead, Admiral Vex Kaler's image appeared on the main display, his usually composed features showing something the Council had never seen before, raw terror. Chancellor, the Admiral's voice trembled through the translation matrix. We need to reconvene the Council immediately. Emergency protocols. Maximum priority. Admiral, what is your status? Have the humans surrendered? Chancellor. Vex Kaler paused, looking off-screen at something that made his pupils dilate with fear. The humans have a Titan. The Council chamber fell silent. The term Titan wasn't part of any known military classification. It sounded like something from ancient mythology. Clarify your statement, Chancellor Thexmori demanded. I'm transmitting our sensor data now. You need to see this. The holographic display filled with tactical information that made absolutely no sense. The readings showed a single vessel, but the scale indicators had to be malfunctioning. According to the data, the ship was over 12 kilometers long and massed more than some moons. Sensor error, Ambassador HFY stated flatly. No species builds vessels of that magnitude. That's what I thought, Admiral Vex Kaler replied, his voice hollow. Until it decloaked directly in front of my flagship. The display shifted to show actual visual data from the Admiral's ship. The Council collectively gasped as they saw what filled the Admiral's view screen, a vessel so massive that it didn't look like a ship at all. It looked like a mobile space station bristling with weapon systems that were larger than most capital ships. Identify yourselves, came a calm human voice through the communication channel. You are in violation of Colonial Defense Zone Alpha 7. Withdraw immediately or face defensive action. The voice belonged to a human female whose image appeared in a smaller window on the display. She sat calmly on what appeared to be a command bridge, but the scale of the chamber behind her suggested the ship's interior was vast beyond comprehension. This is Admiral Vex Kaler of the Galactic Hegemony, the Admiral had responded in the recording. Your species will comply with Council authority or face the consequences. The human woman's expression hadn't changed. Admiral, you're threatening a colonial defense installation. I'm required to inform you that the TDF Ragnarok is authorized to use any necessary force to protect human colonies. You are one ship against an entire fleet, Admiral Vex Kaler had declared. Stand down immediately. Actually, the human had replied with what the translation matrix interpreted as amusement. I'm not a ship. I'm a Titan-class mobile fortress. There's a difference. What happened next defied every principle of space combat the Council had established over millennia of warfare. The Ragnarok hadn't fired conventional weapons. Instead, sections of its hull had opened to reveal massive construction bays, each one containing what appeared to be entire fleets of smaller vessels. Within minutes, the Admiral's patrol squadron had found itself outnumbered 50-1 by ships that emerged from a single human vessel like wasps from a disturbed nest. But the real shock had come when the human commander activated what she called defensive protocols. The space around the Titan-class ship had simply changed. Energy fields invisible to most sensors created barriers that made the entire region around the Ragnarok impassable. Any weapon fired at the fortress was absorbed and redirected back at its source with compound interest. "Admiral," the human commander had said pleasantly, "you now have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from this system. After that, I'll consider your continued presence an act of war." Admiral Vexcaler had looked at his tactical displays showing his weapons completely ineffective against the human fortress, then at the swarm of smaller vessels surrounding his fleet, each one reading as individually more powerful than his flagship. He had ordered immediate withdrawal. As the recorded communication ended, the council chamber remained frozen in shocked silence. Finally, Chancellor Thex Mori found his voice. "How many of these Titans do the humans possess?" Admiral Vexcaler's image grimaced. "Unknown, Chancellor. But I detected at least 4 more massive energy signatures in neighboring systems as we withdrew. Each one was similar to the Ragnarok." Ambassador Sythvel's serpentine form had gone rigid. "A fleet of mobile fortresses, each one capable of deploying what amounts to an entire navy." "Chancellor," interrupted the Council's chief intelligence analyst, "I've just received preliminary reports from our deep space monitoring stations. The humans appear to have constructed these vessels in the dark space between star systems using manufacturing processes we don't understand." "How long would it take to build something like that?" asked another representative. "For us? Centuries, assuming we had the resources of an entire star system and technology we don't currently possess," the analyst replied. "The humans appear to have built at least 12 of them in under 50 years. High Chancellor Thex Mori's crystalline form dimmed as the implications sank in. The Council had assumed humanity was a primitive species because their colony ships and scouts used relatively simple technology. They hadn't considered that humans might be deliberately showing only their most basic capabilities. "Recommendations?" he asked the assembled council. The chamber remained silent for long minutes before Ambassador Sythvel spoke. "Immediate reclassification of humanity from primitive species to major galactic power. Full diplomatic recognition. And perhaps an apology." "An apology? Chancellor, we just attempted to threaten a species that builds 12-kilometer-long mobile fortresses for defensive purposes. If those are their defensive installations, I really don't want to find out what they've built for offense." Admiral Vexcaler's image nodded grimly. "The human commander mentioned this was a colonial defense vessel. That implies they have other classifications of warship." The Galactic Council, which had confidently assembled to discuss disciplining a primitive species, now found themselves facing the reality that they had just encountered a civilization that might be more advanced than all of them combined. And based on the humans' reaction to their first diplomatic contact, the Council was very fortunate that this species seemed more interested in being left alone than in conquering their neighbors. The vote to offer immediate diplomatic recognition to humanity was unanimous. No one wanted to find out what a Titan-class warship looked like when it wasn't being defensive.